Well, we all know that today is Trump Day in the United States of America, but this move has actually sparked conversations across the globe. President Donald Trump's inauguration has taken the center stage and the talking point in the global stage, not just for his grandeur, but also for his selective guest list. Africa is Moro today wants to check why why wasn't there any African president who was actually invited in Trump's inauguration? In the United States of America, January 20th always marks the start of president-elect's term, and it's not of a difference with President Donald Trump. So today is going to be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States of America. While foreign leaders, some of them from Europe, Asia, India, and some of them have been selected to grace the ceremony, one glaring omission, and the one that we were talking about, is how African leaders have actually been left behind. The list of invitation actually revealed the deliberately exclusion of numerous African leaders of state, raising questions and tensions about America's relationship with the African continent under Trump's administration. We all know what happened in his previous regime, but what signal does this send anyway? Africa is Marwa explores. Thank you very much for tuning in to Africa is Marwa. If you haven't subscribed yet, kindly do so. And if you're coming back for another time, thank you for always tuning in to Africa is Marwa. And I believe that you now understand why we are taking Africa to be truly ours. If you're coming for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment on what you think about Africa is Marwa. Well, so as we keep on exploring why some of the African presidents weren't invited, I just want us to take a look at some of the popular presidents in Africa that had a close intact with the United States of America. We all know that South Africa has actually never attended like any United States inauguration. So we would actually omit South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, but we have known President William Ruto, who has been very prominent, especially under the Biden leadership, and even when he was given the state of, he was invited by the state to actually attend the visit last year, which actually brought again so much controversy with the Kenyan citizen. And many were actually expecting that he was going to get this invitation, but actually he has been omitted. The event will, however, be held indoors in the capital, Rotunda, due to the extreme cold weather, according to many reports. The event is actually expected to draw approximately more than 500,000 guests. This is unlikely previous inaugurations, which have made very big audiences. So Trump's second swearing in will actually feature a diverse guest list that includes sitting and former heads of state, predominantly from right wing and those who are in populist governments. Historical leaders do not just typically attend the United States presidential inaugurations with their countries represented instead by ambassadors or foreign ministers, how the presidents always do when they actually attend the inauguration. But aside from African presidents being omitted, we have seen how Trump has been working, because I know it's Trump's allies that have actually been kept close in this inauguration. So we're talking about, look at someone like Germany's president, Olaf Scholz, who leads the EU largest economy. He has been snubbed, and an invitation instead sent to Alice Weidel, the leader of far-right alternative Germany party, AfD. I know UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has also not been invited. And however, the far-right politician Nigel Farage of the Reform UK party has been invited. French President Emmanuel Macron was not invited, despite Macron and Trump having friendly relationships. Instead, French far-right political Eric Zemmour of the Reconquest Party will be present. So you see, uh, African leaders have actually been overlooked, and it's not just African leaders, but also those from the European Union. And Trump always have a funny way on how he works, and this actually presents on how his leadership is going to, be once he becomes, once he sits on that throne. Now that he's being sworn in today. So, President William Ruto, if I just go back to the African president, was one of the heads of states who actually seemed to be the first president to be actually identified as a non-NATO ally president back in 2024, actually after his foreign visit to President Joe Biden. But in his first term, Trump actually made a controversial remark about African nations, which saw formal protests from countries like South Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. Furthermore, his administrative oversaw a decline in the U.S. foreign direct investment (FDI) in Africa, which actually dropped by over $10 billion. By contrast, during the same period, China significantly, ramped up its influence in Africa, investing billions in critical infrastructure and energy projects in Kenya. In Kenya alone, actually, China has funded major developments such as the Standard Gauge Railway, talk about the Nairobi Expressway, and so many other projects. So, what does this mean about Trump Africa strained relationship? I mean, it was expected that he was going to invite either even one of the African state leaders, but anyway, his inaugural speech is actually expected to emphasize his vision of the American first, and we know he has been very critical about this, with an emphasis on reasserting the US dominance as always on the global stage. And many analysts actually predict further disengagement with Africa, likely to take a backseat to Trump's priority regions. This could have implications for trade, aid, and security operations, areas where United States involvement has historically been so significant in the African continent. So, what is the further implication for Africa on this? And what does this send the picture for our continent as Africa? I know we're trying as much as possible to ensure that we actually become independent as a continent, but you see, the exclusion is just more than diplomatic slight. It's a symbol of the wider global perception of Africa's role in the global stage. And for years, African leaders have fought to assert their place in the global politics. But moments like this actually reinforce the notion of Africa's voice is still undervalued, which is actually sad. And we know Trump's message for Africa. What was President Trump's message in this? His administration transactional approach to diplomacy, engaging only with national nations seen as beneficial to the United States interest. If you look at some of the guests that are going to attend, look at China's president Xi Jinping, and even India's Prime Minister Modi. Those are people who are very close to Trump, and for Africa, this actually raises a larger question: why does the continent with over 1.4 billion people and immense resources continue to be sidelined in the global affairs? While some African leaders expressed disappointment in private, this could be a wake-up call actually. And this actually reminds Africa to continue building its alliance, asserting its independence, and uniting as a continent. And this is why we actually advocate for everyone, to make Africa to be truly ours, because we don't want to be having this sort of disappointment, because we believe we can actually make it on our own. And once we set ourselves at the global stage, then we are not going to be ignored but we're not going to be overlooked. If the world actually refuses to see Africa's potential, perhaps it's time for Africa to show it. It's up to us. And this is why Africa is Marwa is actually advocating for every African to, make sure that in whatever that you do, we make the agenda of Africa to be known globally, so that we also have a voice in each and every state. I know many of us, with our president or with our heads of state and the many issues that we are facing in the country, but anyways, we need to ensure that we are actually visible on the global stage. This is not just about one inauguration. It's about how Africa is perceived and how we perceive ourselves as citizens of this great continent. Let's push for unity, self-reliance, and louder voice on the global stage. And I know we are going to make it. We are going to make ourselves visible, and we are going to be seen. We are actually anxious to see on how President Trump's, leadership is going to turn out in his second term as the United States president, and we are hoping for the best as the African continent. We're hoping that this will actually give us a leeway to ensure that we make ourselves visible enough and utilize our resources to the best as America keeps on doing their own things. So that's it for Africa is Marwa. Thank you so much for tuning in. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to Africa is Marwa if you haven't yet subscribed. And don't forget to like this video and share it wide with every African that you feel like value our independence. And please let me know in the comment section, what do you think about President Trump now omitting some of the African states? How is it going to turn out? Thank you for now. Bye and see you next time. Keep it Africa is Marwa.